Oh, is it FPV? Oh dear. All right, thanks for putting the link in YouTube, FP. Oh dear. Well, other people got here, and I was just sending a message. Oh, here we are, Baron. Who else is here? Baron, Pam. Oh, good, you're in now, Pam. Thank you, excellent. And Media. Hey, Chris. Yeah, hi. I believe you're a friend of Baron's. That's brilliant. Lionhearts, excellent. People coming into the chat. Um, you hear me loud and clear. Thank you very much. Right. So, if anybody wants to come in at some point, that's not a problem. First of all, what I'd like to do is just for those people that are new to the Bob Beck protocol or they've dabbled with it, if they've been reading about it. As you can see in the back there, I've got many units that I've already made. I've had a spate of time where I've been making them. I did have about 25, 26 of them. I've been sending them off here, there, and everywhere, and I've given a few away to friends. Um, January was an absolutely mental month. I was away working. I got back and I had about 20 boxes to make in a bit of a frenzy. So a couple of late nights and what have you. So um, let me just give you a bit of background to myself. I'm a sort of retired engineer. I'm contracting now. I've been in manufacturing industries for nearly 40 years, I hasten to say. Spent 20 odd years in the semiconductor manufacturing industry, some in private enterprises, and a lot in the printing industry as well, and a little bit in ceramic tiling. So I've either been printing on silicon paper or ceramics, and I've been involved in many projects involving sophisticated equipment and machinery and electrical systems. It's just, I could go on, but those 40 years have stood me well, and so very competent. I consider myself an equipment engineer, but if I had to pigeonhole myself, and so with this Bob Beck, how I came across this Bob Beck, I suffered from hives, and I was taking Claritin or Purities or whatever it's called, and I was just taking a tablet every day, and I was coming up with the hives on my thighs, on my back, even on my nasal, uh, on my nose, in between my fingers, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night. It's horrendous. Anyway, I tried for about a year to change my diet. Stopped eating fish. I stopped drinking certain types of beer. Well, all beer really, and mainly it was diet. I thought I was ingesting something that would cause it. Nothing seemed to work, and I kept taking tablets. So the tablets, like in true essence of the modern farmer, is that you treat the symptoms and not, you don't find the cause. So I was starting to look at perhaps acupuncture, reading into that, and I can't remember for the life of me how I came across Bob Beck. I was racking my brains today and going through all my files to see if there was any trigger, but I found this Bob Beck. Started reading about it, and then the diagrams that he had. So I thought, well, okay, well, being like any true sort of professional, one has to try it and try it on oneself, and I did. And after about a few weeks, I wasn't getting any itchiness. I wasn't taking any tablets. I still limited my diet, but I have to say that it was after a month or so that I stopped using the unit, and it never came back. And I do continue to use the unit, not as much as I should do. You have to, once you think you're all right, you have to be disciplined to use it, because we do live in a toxic world. And so with that, I tried on a few friends with varied results, and some feedback I got was quite positive. And so it was then basically culminating into a nice little neat package here, which is what I sell now. And in the last year, I mean, these boxes have nearly doubled in price, and I've done a deal with a company to actually give me a fair price if I order a certain amount at a time, which is fair enough. And I've tried to keep it as simple as possible, and it's what I try to supply is an out of the box. So when you receive a package, it has the batteries, the lead, the pads. You've got everything you need to get going straight away, and So that's what I thought I would do. And yeah, it's. I think I've had one recall where somebody said that the box smelt funny and it's almost like a burning inside. I received the unit back and it worked fine. So I don't know what was wrong. So unless they'd sent me the wrong box back, but I doubt it because they kept the other two because they ordered 3 at the time. Anyway, apart from that, so some people have had slight accidents with them, and accidents happen, and I fix them. It's not a problem. But what else was I going to say? So the Bob Beck's protocol. I whizzed through it again today. I've read it quite a few times just to pick up some salient parts. And with this unit, what Bob Beck did say, or the document says that stemmed from Bob Beck's work, was that there's 2 factions of our immune system which come back in, and they are, and I did reference the document, the PDF, and it said interleukins and interferon, which are 2. I can pull it up here. Let's see if I can share. If I present slides, let's go to. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll share the second screen if I can. I'll bring that up. Now, I'm not a doctor or a chemist or anything like that. But if this is what they're saying, let's go to the share screen and go to. I want to go entire screen. We'll go to 2. Share. So this is interferon, and it says it's a group of signaling proteins made and released by host cells in response to the presence of several viruses. So if that is being subdued by all this garbage that we've got coming into our bodies, what does it say it does? It says, in a typical scenario, a virus-infected cell will release interferons, causing nearby cells to heighten their antiviral defenses. Well, isn't that interesting? IFNs, I guess for short, belong to a large class of proteins known as cytokines, molecules used for communication between cells to trigger the protective defenses of the immune system that help eradicate pathogens. There we go. So if that's what's been re-enabled in our immune system, which has been kept dormant by whatever it is we're breathing, we're eating or drinking, then I'm all for it. So that's one faction that kicks back in with the electrification process. So this is what they say in that Bob Beck PDF. Now the next one, if I move to the next one, this is the interleukin. I'll bring it up, and again, this is I'm just trying to pick out a salient point. They are particularly important in stimulating the immune responses, such as inflammation. Well, but you can research this yourself if you've got the 2 words. It's interleukin and the interferon, and you can read all this stuff at your leisure. But these are the 2 factions, I think, which are important, which can actually become back into effect once the Bob Beck protocol for the blood electrifier has worked. So I just like to get that out there because the people have asked me a lot of questions, and I've referenced this but couldn't remember, quite completely what the name was, and I thought I'd put it out today. And it says they were defined in the 1970s. Leukocytes. I've heard of that word before, leukocytes, but again, I'm not a doctor. I'd have to try and read all this and make just educate oneself with it, really. I wouldn't be able to recite this word for word, but the important thing is interleukin, I guess, and the interferon. So that's with that. I just check the chat again to see who's here. Who I haven't said hello to. Oh, Zoo. Hello, Zoo. And we've got Econo Kit UK. Oh, that's you. Is that Alan? Hi, Alan. And After Dark. Thank you, Zoo. Okay, so Bob Beck, yep, I'm already sort of ready hooked up here. I've been zapping today in a bit of free time, and one thing I would like to say is that the pads, the pads. A lot of people. Let me just stop sharing the camera. The pads. Now, with these pads, I always get it the wrong way around with these pads. Here we are, the healthcare pads. It has been pointed out to me that in the Bob Beck protocol, it states that the pad size shouldn't be any more than 1/8 of an inch, and that's what his steel probes are. And he used steel probes with the cotton wraps on them, and then he doused them with salt water. But if you're saying, if Bob Beck's saying, this is the only contradictory part of it I find, if he's saying it shouldn't be more than 1/8 of the inch and it should be over the radial and the ulnar artery, and so the signal doesn't go into adjacent skin, it's predominantly over the artery where you're feeling for your pulses, then with the cotton swabs on there, it's actually wider, and I'll actually show you that in the document that it's referenced. So to me, if I've actually got salt water on the cotton swab surrounding the electrode, then obviously the conductivity will obviously go through the cotton swab as well through the water, so it's a lot wider anyway. So that I did take a picture of that, which is directly from. I'll just share that while I'm here. Present, share screen, entire screen. Share that here. Hi, Jax. Hello. Was in the StreamYard bit. Akram Falters. Do I want more Nikon camera with water damage? No, I don't. Thank you very much. I had enough trouble with the first one, and although I got it working, it took quite a bit. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Nikon cameras. Thank you very much, but thank you for asking. Now, as you can see here, they've got two probes with the cotton swabs, dousing with salt water. I hate to add, that's what they say, and they put them on. Now, that would be this picture here in step 3. Although the electrodes are inside the cotton swab, because he didn't want the metal contacting the skin. That doesn't look. Again, I'd have to know the size of that arm, really, but compared to that, it's no bigger than what the pads are, really. If you cut the pads down and sort of take the half moons off, and which is what I recommend to people, and yeah, and then obviously he's using a Velcro strap. I'll just stop sharing that for a minute. So, if I get this too bright there, I would get the I do cut off the half moon, so it's more rectangular, and I will actually I might have one that I made earlier somewhere, but yeah, there's that one. I can actually pull my one out actually because it's not in there very tight. Get that one down there. I'll cut this off, he says, and then just get this fella out. That's that one, and then pull it off there. So basically, this is where's the camera? There's the camera. That's get that tape off now and put that on my wrist. You know, I'm not too big a, and it's, as you can see, it's not that wide. And so, you know, when then taping it on, it's fine. I have suffered from a bit of itchiness. Now, what I will say is what I've noticed with this latest batch of pads is that it comes with this sticky gel, which is a surgical, and these things are sealed. There's a these are what worked for me originally, and I can only use what has worked for me. And some people with sensitive skin have found that they've had a sort of what looks like a burning effect, if you like, and there's an outline of the pads there, and they could be allergic to the gel. And some people have certain gels they use and prefer. But what I found is that the gel itself, even though I try and keep it nice and clean and put it back onto the acetate when I finish using it, it's tending to perish, and that gel will absorb any particles that are flying around in the atmosphere. So what I do, and what I found is better actually for me, is I actually remove all the gel off of this pad, and with the back, it's got like a felt cover on it, is I actually dip this into my silver colloid, if you like, and then shake off the excess, and then I actually place them onto my arm and then tape it down nice and tight. And I have found that the signal that comes from this is a lot stronger, so there's more connectivity to the skin, so long as there's no tracking in between. You keep it nice and dry, so when it's taped down, it's taped down. And I find that the tiny little spotting you can get, and which causes the itchiness, it isn't so bad. I mean, I'm not sure if you can see that, but I've not got much on the way there. There's a slight bit of redness, I suppose, but yeah, but that signal doesn't half kick out. And I've said a few times I've had it in my pockets, and I've knocked it, and it's winged its way up full. I've had to scramble to get it to shut down a little bit, but so there is that. But if people wanted to try using cotton swabs with metal, they could easily attach it to the end of the you could probably get a little chock block or something, and then put the probe in, as long as you insulate this part, and put the cotton swab on, and try it that way, if anyone's concerned about it. But this, basically, to get the signal into the skin, this is a surgical pad, which effectively does the same job, although I would say that diameter is the smallest diameter I can buy that's out there at the moment. Some other pads are big, massive square ones, and it's just ridiculous. So I mean, and for the price, I mean, these have gone up quite considerably as well. But it's all, well, everything's going up, isn't it? So hi V Thomas. Yeah, it's we're talking about Dr. Bob Beck's protocol and the blood electrifier. So now, what I've done is I've been asked many questions, email, and I try and respond as quickly as I can, and as concisely as I can. And I am on WhatsApp, but some people have given me some questions on WhatsApp. That could be easier. I'm not on Instagram, Facebook, or anything like that. But I mean, my email's there. I can get that on my phone and respond. And people have asked me about silver colloid generation, and I don't drink it so much, to be honest. And why is that? Well, because when I worked in my last company, I was in charge of a process called MOCVD. That's a mouthful. I won't go into it, but because I worked with in the main fabrication plant, and looking after a certain set of equipment and a team, I was exposed to arsenic, or potentially. There's all systems in place, so my blood would be screened every year, so they would test it. And one year, the first year they called me in and said, "Look, we found something. We've got this spike in your blood. We don't know what it is. Don't worry, it's not carcinogenic. You're not going to die." But it could have been the fact that I'd been drinking colloidal silver, and I must admit I didn't really know what it was, so I kept stum a bit, and I didn't actually tell them. And but they said there's nothing to worry about. But I know where it was from Manchester Hospital or something, and they were quite interested in my diet, so I told them, and what I did eat, and what my favorite foods was, like fish. I used to eat a lot of dry seaweeds as a snack, and they may have thought it might have been contaminated seaweed I was eating or something, but they just fizzled out in the end because they couldn't really work out what it was. And I think the main person that was trying to follow my diet to the best as she could ended up going sick. So I'm not sure if what happened there, but it just fizzled out. But anyway, onto the silver colloid. So I've got absolutely. I'm going to do one live. Actually, I'm going to show you what I've done, and I've just attached. There's two silver wires here, which are the 9999 pure silver. And what I've done is, according to Bob Beck, he's used what he says is a little lamp on the end. This is a 24-volt lamp I've got in there. So when it's in the solution, that lamp will become brighter the more ions there are in the water. So the lamp will start to glow. So you can gauge. You can say, well, that's enough now. I think if you've got a meter to measure parts per million in the water. But if you feel it's too strong, there's nothing wrong with diluting it, I suppose, really, so long as you've got that ions in there of the silver colloid. And so that's the silver colloid. Now, before I do that, I have a it's not gin, it's water. But this is my gin glass. Okay, so I believe, no, it's not. It's actually my wife's glass. Yes, it's her gin glass, not mine. Anyway, gin, honestly. So I'm going to do that in a minute, and you'll see it live happening. But what I used to use, if I can find it, was it's down here somewhere. I should have got it earlier, I know. I use something like this. Oops, excuse me. I use something like this, which is a power supply. It's mains driven, and this will kick out. It's a 24-volt 5-amp power supply. So you drop a couple of silver probes into water with this, it'll create it in no time. But this isn't practical. You don't want people buying power supplies and connecting mains leads to things and everything. So what Bob Beck did do is, in one of his designs, he actually included a colloidal silver generator, or the ability to generate silver colloid. So what I've done here is I've modified one unit. I'm not sure if you can read that. It just says colloidal silver gen on it. So basically, what this will do, this will still give you the pulsar. It's got the 3 batteries inside. I'll show you that. The light's flashing. Now, when you plug the lead in for the pulsar, as you know, the LED does go out, and you connect your pads and everything, and away you go. And you've got your sensitivity, as my video on YouTube, if you've watched it, does say. And I will state that the frequency of this is 4 hertz. And if you refer back to Bob Beck's protocol, the PDF, which is available, the link's on the website of my video where you can download it. It does say that it's roughly half of the Schumann frequency, which is 7.839 hertz, which has varied over time. But he said in one of the articles, it's not critical, as long as you're around about the 4 hertz mark, And it's a 50% duty cycle, 50% up, 50% down. So it's you're not charging the blood, you're just getting that signal in the microcurrents, or the low order milliamps, I'd say. Depends if you've got how high you've got it, and how, again, it relies on the integrity of that connection to the skin. If your skin's clean and dry, that's the most important, because when I've put the pads on, especially with the gel, I think, it's not boosting very high, and I turn it up and I'm thinking maybe, and I push down on the pads and I can feel it stronger. So I know it's the integrity, and if it isn't that greater connection, and the signal's not very high, then you may end up leading to the itchiness and the tiny little scabbing there. And I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat in case there are any questions coming in. Okay, I am now trying a longer hyperlink pads, cut a bit narrower than the original pads in the second Beck configuration, along the radial artery, 6 inches apart, so that's my hand going slightly numb. Okay, yeah. Yes, Jax, yeah. I mean, don't skip on the batteries. I recommend getting Duracell. They last absolutely ages. I mean, again, my main emphasis is when I ship these is to supply batteries. I'm getting the batteries for about £1 to £1.20, and I've got another box of 24 behind me, which I got yesterday. But it's in order to get everybody up and running and straight out of the box. Okay, so there's nothing worse than receiving something, thinking, oh, I've got to go and get batteries from the shop now. So I try and at least get so people can start straight out of the box. But back to the colloidal generator. So what I've done is I put in another mono plug, so you could technically use the same lead if you wanted. And so what I do is I've just I've marked these leads so I know which one's positive and which one's negative when I plug this in. But more importantly, what I've done with this unit is when I've got to make sure I'm in front of the camera. Sorry. What I've actually made sure I've done is when you plug in, you could be running the zapper unit, and if you plug in the colloidal silver, what it will do also, you'll see it'll actually stop the light itself. But what's actually happened is disconnected the circuit to run the pulsar, and now there's 24 volts. Well, I say 24. It's probably, if the batteries are 100%, there's probably 27 volts on this now. And the reason why I connected that or marked the lead is that tells me that's the negative. So I will show, if I can. Oh, let's get my DVM. That I should have 27 volts on this lead now. Let's get it into a position where you can see. Should I put the light on? Can you see that? Yes, you can see that. Nice. Okay. So now let's connect up the negative. Oh, I don't want to go across here with my hands, do I? So let's see if I can put that down here. My editing skills aren't that great. Let's go down to here so you can see. Okay, and if I get the positive lead. Now we are connected into the pulsar there. And if I go negative, and then what I can do is I can show that there. That's 28 volts. So there's 28 volts on that. Now, if I take that out, you'll start to see it. You'll start to see it pulsing again because the unit's switched on, and it re-enables the pulsing circuit. And then, obviously, if you switch off, it switches it off. If you switch it back on again, and then you plug the same lead into here, you're back to zapping again. Let's put it up the right way. You're back to zapping again. Okay. Right. So I'm going to offer that as from now on, I'm going to offer that as an option. And if I guess I should have done it before, but because I've had so many people asking me the question, do I build colloid silver units? And I said, well, not really. Again, it does go hand in hand with the Bob Beck protocol. The silver colloid acts as an antibiotic, and it can assist in removing the pathogens. And but it would be a nice to have rather than I suppose it's just a little bit more time, a bit more cost to actually put in another socket, but it's not a drastic change. Nothing else changes with the design of the pulsar. It's just that I've controlled the way the DC is connected to the zapper circuit via the second mono plug. So when you plug it in, two connections open up which disconnect the positive power to the zapper control. Because let's face it, if you're if you're if you plug it into the wrong one and you put your pads on, well, I've labeled them. I might actually label this one as well to say pulsar colloid. So when people pick up the unit, they'll know. It's that silly, really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring over my glass of water, sorry, and let's see if I can get the camera on that. Right, so the lighting might be okay. So I'm just going to drop in and just hook over the one silver part here. Hopefully it'll stay in. Will it stay in? Let's go to a Z type of I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat. I used the Beck 9-volt circuit, tried standard TDS meter, no change to the reading after silver electrolysis. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I think there should be no burning in the skin. That's a reaction to the sticky. It could be barren. It's down to the integrity of the connection, I believe. But if that gel becomes insulative rather than conductive, or you've got some parts which are more conductive than others, it will take more current at that point of connection. So that's what I'm thinking. So as more current is focused in a smaller area, it may just cause that little sort of, I'd say, burning and cause the itchiness. I always thought you want millivolts. Toady UK. Oh, Toady, I recognize that name. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Genuine fluke. Yes, it is a genuine fluke. Yes, it is. A 179 in its true RMS. There you go. Right. Anyway, back to the thing in hand. So these are a bit longer than I did have a deeper glass. I'll try not to short them out if I can. And I'll try not to spill it either. So they're not conducting. Now, what I do is I've got a nice pair of tweezers here, which are the actual lamp and one side the lamp and one side of the let's put the positive side to that. Okay, so I've got that connected in there. It's just, it is Heath Robinson, I suppose, but it's I've made that connection there because they're going to go to the end of this mono plug here. Now the other one I shall put into my other one, and that's going to go into here. He says, where's my other lead gone? It's there. So I shall put that over here and put the other one on the crock clip. So that's on the crock clip. And let's see if we can get the lamp in situ. It's a little filament lamp. Now, as you can see, the unit's flashing. Keep an eye on the water. Those probes are actually touching now. I don't want them to touch because otherwise the lamp will go pretty high. So this is just tap water. Let's get that back out of the way. They're still touching, I think. Let's bend that a bit further down. That's okay, they're not touching. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this straight in. So this is the colloidal generation, the silver colloid generation. And I'm going to plug it into this one. And if you can keep an eye, you can see this one here starting to smoke now. You might be able to see a tiny little bit on that lamp. It's glowing. If I keep it out of the... Let's switch that light off a minute. Let's put a... No, can you see that? No. So as that smokes more, what I can do, it's just a tiny little glow of red on the filament on the lamp. You'd have to be completely dark in here if you get to see it on the camera, I think. But if I move that probe closer, if I just tap it, you see that lamp come on. So obviously, the more ions that are in that water, the better the electrons will conduct to the probe to create the circuit. So, but it's the voltage that's driving that current through the water, and the more ions there are, it's easier for that the ions to cross from one to the other. So I think that, and I'll just pull it out to show you that it's still flashing. There you are, it's still working. And then I can take these out. And that would be enough, really. I would say that's more than enough. You can stir that now, but I think I'll just leave that a little bit and show. Yeah, as you can see there, look, that's all the ions. And then I'll just stir it with a... have something here. I'll just stir that up. Here we go. There we are. And as in true form, bottoms up. Cheers, Toadie. Yes. It's got quite a sweet taste to it, I have to say. That's right. So there you are. The proof is in the drinking. So, and there you are. So that's with the colloidal generation from the Bob Beck unit. Now, I hear what you're thinking. What about the voltage? Well, let's check the voltage, shall we? Let's see what the voltage is now after that little time. How much has it gone down? Because to me, originally, I thought, well, if people are going to generate colloidal silver, I mean, for me, it was the electrification process that was more important. So let's check the voltage from the unit. Let's plug it back in onto the silver colloid, because that's an easy way to measure the voltage now, because that's what we're getting. We're getting the direct voltage from the batteries, the 3 pp3s, straight to here. Excuse me while I... So let's turn that on. And again, in true fashion, negative on the negative. And then let me just drop that down again for you so you can see. Let's bring it here. There. And here we go. Let's look at the voltage. So we've dropped about, I would say, half a volt just in that short time. Now, what probably has dropped that voltage in further is because I did temporarily short the probe so you could see the bulb flash. So that's probably taken a bit more current than what would have done. But she's stabilized at about 27.7, where it's 28.3 volts or something, I believe. Okay, right. So that's the colloidal silver update, or the mod, or the option for the Bob Beck unit. Now, as I was sharing the screen before, I will just, if anybody out there is interested in building their own circuit, like what I did. So Bob Beck's diagram from the PDF, if I present that now, excuse me. Let's go back to here. This has got the picture of the pads on again. So if I come out of that and go to here, this is what Bob Beck shows in the protocol. So he's got this 27 volts coming through the jack here, and that's it, a grain of wheat he calls it. Yeah, 6 to 12 volts. Again, so the lamp will shine brighter at a low voltage, and he's got a current. Excuse me. So it creates a voltage drop across there, I guess, for whatever current. But I don't use a resistor. I mean, I'm just use a 24 volt lamp. And to somebody that's not too conversant with electronics or schematics, this looks a bit noisy, doesn't it? It looks really noisy. So, but it does give you the positive and negative connections for the battery to put them in series there. So, so it's not too bad. It's not, for me, it's okay. But I mean, to any amateur or, without any disrespect, sort of a hobbyist, it might look a bit noisy to start with. So I made it slightly a bit easier. I think this layout looks a bit tennis, a bit easier if you're going to put it into a circuit. So it gives you the pinouts of the 358, and the orientation is obvious. And that's the mono socket there, and I give the colors of the wires as they are in the box. And obviously with a pinout for the plugs, yeah, for the mono plugs. So on when you've got nothing connected into the unit, the blue and brown are shorted, as you see here, which when you switch it on, this circuit is connected through here, and that's why the LED flashes positive and negative, because the Zeners are 18 volt Zeners, so each one will conduct on the thing for the LED. It just shows that one will actually conduct and flash green, and the other side will be yellow. Now, obviously, when you plug it in, this section here disconnects. So now the signal is going between this line and this line. So this is where the pot comes into effect, where you control the 100k pot. But when you actually bring that pot down to zero, you've got a minimum of 820 ohm resistance there anyway. So otherwise you'd literally short the whole thing out, which you don't want to do. So this is the minimum resistance that's ever there, is 820 ohms, and I wouldn't reduce that anymore. I mean, 1k would suffice, I suppose, but 820 is, it's good enough. And so the next one, what I did is just to show the schematic for what I did do for the colloidal generation, was I actually added from the battery circuit on one side of the switch through another mono plug. And as you can see, when you haven't got anything in here, you switch on, you've got that power coming from here through that short, and it's coming into the positive of the battery, and it's making the circuit. So with and then you've got your ground connection coming off that through to the ground as well. So that's coming back up the switch to pin 8, which is the power pin. So when you plug that in, this one shorts out. This short gets removed, and now the positive supply is not going to this one, but it is still going out of the socket. So this is plus and this is minus. So that's how that works. And as you can see, it's not a lot of wiring and an extra socket to put in. And the reason why I put it where I did was because it was enough room and it's out of the way. So that, but you can take a screenshot of that, and all the values are there. The time constant for the frequency of the 4 Hertz is done by R1 and C1. So you've got 2.4 megs and 0.1 micro. So if you multiplied those two together, you'd get 2.4, which is 1 over 1 over f. So one of that with 2.4 would give you, or 0.24 over will give you 4, with frequency of 4. So f is 1 over t, and that is that's that for that. And if I go to the next one, that's that one. Got that. Oh, incidentally, yeah, I was going to come on to this. this, this does look noisy, doesn't it? Yeah. Now this is another one I've done is a mag pulsar. Nothing as crazy as what this one is. I just had to pull that up because this is what's out there, and this is done by somebody called Andre D. A BBM pulsar org. Now I have made a magnetic pulsar from old flash units from cameras, and I bought quite a few of those and experimented, and I did have a few coils wound to 2.5 millihenries, and where is that photograph? So it's come back here. Nope, it's not going there. So just close that down. So this Bob Beck protocol, again, I can't emphasize enough, read through it, and it does detail stuff about the electrical the silver colloid, the electrifier, testimonials and what have you, and the mag pulsar. And this is the mag pulsar. I did buy some bits and pieces, and I managed to fit a mag pulsar into into a tiny box. That's the panel there, and inside there has a coil, and as you see, I've got the north pole on the outside, and I automated it for T1 and T2 depending on a switch, a timing switch, and a little sounder as well, and an on-off sounder. You could switch it to automatic or manual, so it would charge up and the firing pulse would go off when you hit the button, or the timer function either had 3 pulses a minute or 2 pulses a minute. And the reason being is that the body, I read in one document, can become habitualized to pulsing or magnetic pulses. So but again, all the detailing for the electromagnetic pulses, if you've got something with your lymph nodes or anything deep rooted, this stuff can just blast it and aid. And people with deep rooted problems, if they're going to use the electrifier, again, it's not exact science, but the reading I interpreted from Dr. Beck's protocol is that if you use a pulsar and you drink silver colloid, that will help get rid of the body's toxins when you do electrify. But if you just try and electrify with a lot of them of a lot of issues, deep-rooted issues, then the body, by using an electrifier, can't get rid of that waste, and it may lead to some sort of side effects. So but again, it's not exact science, and the only way we're going to actually find more out about this stuff is by trying it ourselves. And that's why I do ask for good feedback from people, and because it's only from the feedback from the people that are using it I can make any improvements or give people what they want, and hence the colloidal update on that if they want. And if people have bought a unit off me and they want the colloidal, I can do an exchange for a fee. I mean, that's not a problem. I wouldn't expect them to buy another one outright just to have the colloidal. So maybe I can do a video on that and stick it up on YouTube if anybody couldn't make it today. So what else is there? Oh, here's my this is my own design. This is how I automated the mag pulsar if anybody that's interested. So this is a dual 5/5 timer, and this kicks out a certain frequency. I'd have to work it out what it is because I haven't got the values there of capacitors. But what I used was a capacitor network system instead of an RC, simply because it was quicker to charge, and there was no attenuating on the signal. So even though the double 555 timer to clean them up a bit, it was fine. But this would only give you out a square wave. So what I did is designed this little cutoff circuit with a diode here, which would actually set a pulse repetition rate as opposed to a square wave. And that pulse repetition then went to a booster circuit of just a basic BC337 and a relay module, and you could trigger that relay module either by a time signal or by the manual button, and that's the firing pulse. So that would actually fire and make the connection to the discharge tube that was in series with the coil, which would then discharge the capacitors through the flash, which would then send out your magnetic pulse. So that's, I think I've got some values down there actually. Here they are, yeah, down at the bottom there. But like I say, to make these were quite time consuming, very expensive in relation to the electrifier. So I thought, well, I did try building a few mag pulsers and gave them out to people. And I know one chap that played golf, his shoulder was a lot better, and he wouldn't give it back to me. I don't know where he is now. So, but again, I mean, how much effort do I want to put into this? I don't know. To me, the electrifiers are quite good. I've had a lot of positive results from them, from people, and I can tell you some funny stories. And there's one person I know that said her husband gave it a go, and apparently had a mole on his arm here, and he was always wary of it and catching it on his shirt a bit and keeping it out of the sun. And he put the Bob Beck Electrifier on, and she said she heard a big scream come from in the sitting room, and when she went in, I wasn't laughing, but she was, and she said she laughed like a dream. And apparently he'd been using this for about an hour, and he said, and what happened was the mold he had there for years just oozed out a lot of pus, or looked like pus. So whatever he was doing, whatever that electrifier was doing with the blood, maybe it was to do with the interleukins or the interferon or whatever, just saying, "Hey boys, look what we got here. Let's go and get it." And it just went, it just oozed out. And well, I'm not a doctor, but I said, "Well, don't just keep it to the air. Don't cover it up." And apparently it went, and it just left a small blemish of where the mole was. So I guess I don't know if it was bad but the body just ejected from the body. So I guess that's a result. I can't see what. I mean, he's still, his arm's still on there. Nothing else has dropped off apparently. So there we are. So with that, I've made a few points, and what time is it? It's 8:30 already. Wow. Yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to do. Is if anybody has any questions, or if they'd like to pop in to have a chat, I mean, it's more than welcome. I'll take a look at the chat. Hi, Steve. Oh, hello. Thomas, streaming Baron. Yeah. You taking the batteries out, Jax? That'll work, won't it? Eh? Yeah. Vodka and oranges. No worries, Steve. It's the weekend. I know, mate. It's yeah. So Baron, so the light is only to show you it's working. The pulse is giving the light, plug in the lead, and the light goes out. Pulse goes to the leads. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Again, I suppose if you wanted the LED on whilst it is pulsing, one, it's going to use a bit of extra power, I guess, but it's not neither here or there. But you're not going to be sitting there looking at it whilst it's pulsing. I mean, the very fact that you can, if you pull that out or it gets disconnected, okay. I guess the idea is that when you first switch it on, it's working. So you're confident when you put that in, if you get nothing from the lead, you can pull pull it out again, you see the light still working, so it should be putting out a pulse to those leads. So if you can't feel anything on your, it's either the lead is defective or your connection isn't as good, or there could technically be something wrong with the mono plug inside. But the very fact that when you pull that out, the connection into that mono plug is closing and creating the circuit to bring the LED on. So it is a bit of a functional test to say, yeah, I'm pulsing, so the batteries are good, and away you go, stick a lead in. Oh, incidentally, let's take that out. It's pulsing again. So yeah, that pretty much is, I think, as much as I wanted to showcase and yeah, tell you about the colloid. Yeah. Yes. Interestingly enough, is that when you do create the colloid, the silver particles in here are basically the smallest that they could ever get. You can't get any smaller. It's about so naturally. So when it goes into your body, it's best to drink this, by the way, once you've actually created it. So it can last up to 3 days if it's kept out of sunlight or in at room temperature. They tell you not to refrigerate this stuff. Again, it's all in that Bob Beck document. I urge people to read through it. Read it in sections. There's a glossary right at the front to list out everything. But because the colloid has been generated in the water and from those two probes I showed and I used, the ions of silver are actually charged, and so they will discharge. But when they're charged and you drink them and it goes into your system, what the silver ions do is they want to attach themselves to things. So, and if there's any pathogens there, bang, it's going to connect to them. It'll actually stop that pathogen from doing what it wants to do, and it'll be attacked then by our natural, the interferons and the interleukins probably, and the leukocytes. So, and then that will break them down, and it'll come out in your bodily waste. Is it worth reversing the polarity on electrodes to balance out a decomposition of the silver? That's a great question. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. That's a very good point, and one I'd completely forgotten about in my use of these. Now, what I had found is when I'd that's great. Who was that? That was Econikit. Yeah, Econikit. Great question, right? So what I have found is that, I don't know if you can see that, you might, don't know, one might be thinner than the other. So when I've had this one on the positive and this one on the negative, it's this one that generates obviously the most of the ions, because of the way, I suppose, by the convention of current flow, I suppose. And you can swap them over. So the polarity, yeah, absolutely. So you would get more use out of that one than this one. And as you saw from the video, if you care to remember, you'll see the smoke coming off of this one, with the ions coming off. And yeah, so that's that. And Pringles. Oh, right. 70s bike. Yes. Yeah. When I do have a Jag, you see, so, as I, yes. So that's it. Pretty much in a nutshell. Again, how much would it be to upgrade existing unit to colloidal silver generator? Okay, Chris. So you've caught me out there, because I said, I just thought I'd do an exchange unit. If you get it back to me, what I can do is I can do an update within a day or two. So really, we're only talking pence for the connector and the wires. Again, the shipping, I can get it back to you again. So really, I'd be looking at, I'd say £10. I mean, that covers the postage and the cost of the parts and getting it all done. I say that off the top of my head. I wouldn't think it would cost any more than that. And it's something which I felt I should have actually supplied before everything took off. But it wasn't until I got all the questions and people asking, because I guess really I had the luxury of being able to generate colloidal silver using my power supplies. And it's, until I got all these questions in, I thought, well, perhaps I should provide that as a service. And I've got all those. I should update those now as well. So, oh dear, what to do, hey? So, but yeah, I should have done it right from the beginning. But I wasn't using the colloidal silver that much myself, and since I'd not got my hives come back, or not had any major problems, I thought, well, I'd just keep zapping, I suppose, and clean the blood. And prevention is better than cure, I guess. But if it adds itself to it, and again, I've probably forgotten more about what was in that Bob Beck protocol PDF than what I remembered. And it's funny how it dissolves in the end. And rereading it a few times, I suppose, in an update, it's actually made me realize from what people are feeding back also is that perhaps we should be doing that. And yeah. So livers, yes, okay. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it, really. If anybody's got any more questions, or I'm pretty much done for this evening, and I'd just like to thank everybody for turning up and interacting as they could. And yeah, thank you to Peter M. George. Thank you, George. Nice to see you. And again, if anybody's got any other questions, or in my emails up there, please do. Please fire away. And I'll it's great learning all the time, and yeah. So thank you, George. Happy zapping, everybody. Yeah. George is doing this. Okay, so with that, I shall thank you all again for coming along and supporting, and it's been brilliant. Thank you very much. And I've got what else to say, really, apart from I hope everybody has a great weekend. D'Artagnan. Somebody else has said that to me as well. Yeah. I actually told somebody that in Plymouth, because I live in Plymouth, there's a place called the Barbican, and it's where the Mayflower sailed from, to New Plymouth Rock in the new country. And there used to be an old chap down there that used to walk around as Sir Francis Drake. Well, he passed away, and I told someone I had a new job, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I've taken over from that guy that passed away, doing Francis Drake." Anyway, oh, nice. The worrying thing is he believed me. All right, so don't know what else to say with that. But yeah, I mean, I just grew a beard in lockdown, and I just kept this part. Do it, Chris. Do it. I would just take the pick. I wouldn't be able to do it seriously. I wouldn't stay in character. Oh, heaven's sake. But anyway, thanks ever so much again, and I shall bid you all good evening and a good weekend, and happy zapping again. All right. Thanks very much. Goodbye, people. Bye bye.